Sam Smyers here. Today I want to go over my current mastering chain, which is perfect for EDM, pop, and also rap. So let's go ahead and jump right into the video. Alright everyone, welcome back to the channel. Please consider giving this video a like, and then also if you're new here, please consider subscribing to stay updated with future videos that are just like this one. So I wanted to go over my current mastering chain so that you could get an idea of the steps that I take to master my songs. It's a pretty straightforward process. I'm going to go through each of the steps and then also my recommended plugins. And then I'm going to go through an actual example. We're going to go through my song Choose You, which came out a few weeks ago. All right, so here is just a text edit document. I want to show you the steps here. Simply, these are the steps that I take. I'll usually start off by putting a bus compressor on the master. And then if I want to catch any more peaks that made it past that bus compressor, I can hit it with a second compressor or a soft clipper. Then I'll usually EQ it. And then after that, I will do some processing like widening it. So using some stereo spread type of plugins or saturate it or possibly excite it. And then also when you're doing these things like saturating and exciting, they are actually changing the EQ frequencies of your mix. So you might decide to actually do saturation and exciting before EQ, or you might not even need to do the EQ because saturating and exciting the mix fixes any EQing that you wanted to do. And then I'll go ahead and limit everything to make sure that it is loud enough for commercial release. And that will be the end of all the processing. At the end of my chain, though, I will have some metering just to make sure that I am achieving the right frequencies and the stereo spread, the stereo mix, just to make sure that everything is sounding good and looks good in the meters. Now I have my mastering chain saved as an audio effects rack, and this is going to be the basics of it here. When I drag it in, everything is turned off because I might not use all of these different plugins. I will go by one, turning them on and then adjusting the settings. Let's go through the first plugin. In my mastering chain, I've got the solid bus compressor. You could use an SSL bus or some other type of bus compressor. I just use this one because I have the Native Instruments plugins and this one seems to work well for me. I'll usually set it on a preset like Mix Glue, or I'll possibly do Mix Bus and then adjust the settings. After that, I've got the K-Clip. This is by a company called Kazrog. This is what I use for the soft clipper. I will turn this knob all the way up to 100% so that it is using some soft clipping. I can change the settings here. Most of the time, I'll just use smooth. And then I will link these together and increase the gain here so that I'm getting some type of clipping. And I'll usually shoot for maybe 1 to 2 dB of clipping, just making sure that I am keeping it transparent because I don't want this soft clipping to really add anything to the sound of the mix. I'm just using it to catch any peaks that made their way past the compressor. After that, I will do EQ. I like the FabFilter Pro Q. That's probably my favorite EQ plugin. And then after that, I will use the SPL Vitalizer, usually just for the stereo expander because I like how it adds some nice stereo spreading effects. Sometimes you can use some of the exciting options here. And if I don't use this Vitalizer, then I will use the Imager. So I usually use one of these or the other. I usually won't use both of these at the same time. If I'm using the Vitalizer, then I'll just delete this. But if I want to use the Imager, then I can create my stereo spread effects. And I'll usually create 3 bands, put one band around 200, and then maybe another band, maybe around 2K, like that. And then I'll increase the spread of the middle and the top here. And if I need to make this low one more mono, then I can take the bandwidth down. So then after that, if you want to do any kind of saturation or excitement, you can also use any kind of tape plugins. If I did want to excite my master some more, I could go to, let's see, I could go this Ozone vintage tape and I could put this vintage tape in here. And this will give me some nice excitement or saturation. I can try out any of the presets like that. So you could use like a tape plugin or possibly even a saturation plugin like Decapitator and just blend it in a bit. Don't use it at 100%. Finally, after that, then I will limit. I like the FabFilter Pro L2. I will typically start out with a preset, so usually loud and one of these loud ones. Usually I'll do EDM, aggressive and tight, because I'm do a lot of EDM and then raise up the gain here. Turn on the oversampling. I don't need the dither. Make sure that true peak limiting is on. And then my output, possibly take this down about -0.2 dB. Finally, let's go on to our metering. I like this free plugin. It's called Span. This is a good spectrum analyzer option. It also has a correlation meter, so I'll monitor my stereo mix on this correlation meter to make sure that I'm not having any major phasing issues. And after that, I'll use the insight to determine how loud my mix is. I'll check the LUFS here, and I can also check out any other sound field options down here, but usually I just use this to determine the LUFS. The last thing I have on this chain will typically be reference, and that is going to be a plugin by Mastering the Mix, which you can use to reference other tracks and see how your song compares. And I think this is probably the most important element of mastering, is just referencing your track to other tracks, especially if you're mixing at home or in a bedroom like I am. Now let's go through an actual example of how I mastered a song. This is going to be my song Choose You, which you can actually find on Spotify. This is going to be the mastering chain here. Let's open up this solid bus compressor. I'm using the mix bus preset, and then I made some adjustments. You can check those out, copy them if you want. Here is what I did for the K clip, and let's go ahead and play the track. What did you do? I'm breathing you every time I think you. Now, if we take a look at the clipping, I've got about 1.8 dB clipping. I'm using this crisp preset. Next, I have the Pro Q3. I am actually cutting off this pretty steep below 20 hertz because any bass you can't really hear, and you just want to make sure that you're cutting that off below 20 hertz or so. Some people do this, some people don't. Try it, see if it works for you. And I'm just doing some boost around the bass here, around 84 hertz, and then I've got some around here, probably just to add some presence. Now, after the Pro Q3, I actually used the EQ8, which is going to be the Ableton stock plugin, to add some more brightness. I don't know what it was with this song, but for some reason, just using that EQ8 to add the brightness, it seemed to work well. If you don't want to use the EQ8, just try adding some more boost to the high end to whatever third-party plugin you want to use, like the Pro Q3 or another EQ plugin. Now I've got the SPL Vitalizer, and I'm just using this for the stereo expansion. We see I'm just using a small amount here. And then I'm using this Pro L2 limiter using the EDM aggressive and tight option. What did you do? I'm breathing you every time The Pro L2 is great because there's actually a loudness meter built in. So you could actually just use this to monitor your loudness, and I will do short-term or integrated. This is going to be more of like an average. I want your love. You got that touch. I won't give up. You set me free. And I'm doing 4 times oversampling. So you could do 2, 4, 8, that type of oversampling. What I'll do is I'll start from the drop, and then I'll just add on each plugin individually. So that's how it all sounds together. And for this bus compressor, I just want to show you that I'm usually not knocking off that much when I'm using the compressor, maybe about 2 to 3 dB. So I hope that cleared things up for you, and I hope that you are going to be able to create a great mastering chain after you saw what I've been doing. This is going to be great for EDM, pop, rap. All those genres will work really well with this type of mastering chain. And as you can see, it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. You can copy the plugins that I have if you have all those plugins, or you can just copy the steps and replace them with whatever plugins that you have. Usually, if you have just the stock plugins, you could do basically the same exact chain that I have. I hope you enjoyed that video, and if you did, please go ahead and give a like. And also, if you're not yet subscribed, please consider subscribing to the channel. And finally, if you are really looking to improve your mixing skills, then check out my Modern Mix Academy. This is a full all-in mixing course that I created that will help you create some of the best records of your life from the comfort of your own home. I'll put a link down below for you to check that out. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.